Today, members of parliament are set to start debate on a motion that seeks to address the high cost of electricity in this country. And it is our duty here as Business Glide Show to tell you probably how best they can argue it out, because that informs the basis of our conversation today here on yet another informative edition of this show that touches on matters public policy and economics at large, hosted by yours truly, Richard Mwenje. Indeed, always a pleasure to have you on board. And with me to discuss this subject is East Africa's renowned public scholar and Kenya's most sought after political analyst, the first of his name, Herman Manyora. You look sleepy, low energy today. What's up? The chilly weather?
I'm okay.
You're okay? Not afraid of pneumonia though?
No, I'm okay. We're okay.
But you're an old man though. You shouldn't even be afraid of sickness.
No, I'm a young man.
A young man?
Yeah.
Aging like fine wine, you say?
Very young.
We wait to see how that unfolds in the fullness of time. Herman, if you've looked at what's happening around our country, it is no doubt that, of course, Kenyans are really paying so much money to afford electricity in this country. And perhaps that is what has informed the motion that has been sponsored by Laikipia Women Representative, Madam Jane Kagiri, which is actually geared towards restricting the Kenya Power, the KPLC, and the Ministry of Energy from going into any further agreements with and negotiation with the independent power producers. But let's just start from this point, whereby what do you think informs Kenya's over-reliance and dependence on independent power producers against our locally available renewable sources of energy and also other forms of energy?
You know, at the beginning there was some sort of justification because we had an acute shortage in production of what we produced, what we got from Uganda and what we produced through hydro processes.
Hydro generation, yeah.
Because of the drought challenges. The rivers would go down, the water levels would go down, and then Kindaruma and the rest of those places, there will be very serious challenges. Of course, this is stupidly going back to a treaty that Wazungu had with the Egyptians many years ago, and which are making it difficult for us to use rivers that will give us water full time. So we are using rivers that as all anyway.
Not the Aswan Haida.
Yeah, so we are not capable of playing it tough like Ethiopians and
or Egyptians
and the other people. So the Egyptians have held us, but that's another point. So because there was a genuine need, it was necessary to invite players on board to generate electricity and sell it to Kenya Power. That was a good idea.
Much as there was the need to...
That time. But you see, that was the time when Kenya's second name was corruption. So all those deals were entered into in an environment of corruption. Some of them, if you read them, you just collapse. Some of the deals. So that's partly why we are here. But again, if it wasn't for greed, the beginning point would have been to allow people to generate electricity without much control, money regulation. Yeah. So we brought in these people. They were using, fossil energy, mafuta. And it was terrible. Yeah.
If you look at the audited accounts of KenGen for the financial year ended June 2021, you will wonder how comes the government purchased little quantities of energy from KenGen at even a cheaper price, but went for larger quantities, more expensive one from independent power producers. Why do you think this is this insatiable appetite?
Those are the contract deals. Somebody can tell you, I'm going to sell you so many units of power in tranches of 6 months, 3 months, or every year or so on, or whatever it is. And in the contract, something can be there. Even when you don't buy it from me for whatever reason, you'll pay me. You know, there are contracts like those.
Supply of air.
Yeah. Not air. That, he's purporting to protect himself in a legal manner, but overstepping it. Because, yes, if you ask me to produce something, I sell it to you. And then for some reason, you want to get it from another person. I was producing it knowing I'm selling it to you. Naturally, there's something to protect me. But that now they were using entries like those excessively. Yeah.
Very well.
So that we end up losing. And the cost, of course. KenGen will sell power to Kenya Power at less than 10 shillings, by far less than 10 shillings.
But we prefer going for IPPs.
And even then, when you look at the books, we are bought at 6 shillings or 7 shillings. We are bought at 9 shillings from Uganda, or 10 or 11. But from these people, it's as high as 30 shillings, 20 shillings, what have you. So
then we have always pumped chunks of money in our annual budgets towards the geothermal development. And that's why there's even a state agency to look at that, power generation and development in this country. We've looked at the front of tapping into wind power. We've seen the Loyangalani power project. We are seeing upgrading of the Olkaria geothermal and all those initiatives by the government. Until what point will we break even that a consumer will feel that the cost of power has really gone down by significant margins? Because what we are seeing is more of tokenism. A shilling this month, then 2 shillings up the other month.
I'm telling you this. Corruption, I have said repeatedly, corruption resides in the energy sector. So all these things you are mentioning,
Even agencies.
all these things you are mentioning are collapsing under the weight of corruption. Look at the wind power. Look at the shenanigans. Yeah, you can't believe it. It's all...
But from where you sit as your footnote, do you believe that we have the capacity as Kenya to really be self-reliant on matters energy?
If countries that don't see the sun a quarter way of what we see, even 1/10, use solar energy, how much do you need to be a genius to know that we can use the sun? We have the wind, we have the sun, we have water, we have everything. We don't need to spend so much on... In fact, energy should be very cheap in this country.
And we are building dams by the day.
Energy should be very cheap in this country. Yeah, all those projects are corruption projects.
Conduits for people to steal?
Yeah.
What you call now budgeted corruption.
Because if you want to put up a dam, all those funny dams, I've said, look at any lake. Look at where the lake lies. Look at the landform. Look at what the land looks like.
More
it's a
of
basin.
crater. Yeah.
You go on a flat piece of land, you want to put up a basin there. A dam there. It's not a question of dams. It's a question of Kenyans being serious. Allowing researchers, scientists, engineers to work and facilitating them to work. By now, this country should be tapping into solar energy in many ways. In fact, in a country like this, it should be legal for you to heat your water using electricity. We should use sun everywhere, all of us.
Whether in a slum or leafy suburb.
No, I'm saying in terms of these
Of
approved
capacity.
structures.
Yeah, sure.
No structure should be approved until it has demonstrated that it has installed solar energy.
To tap
I hear there are such a laws in place, regulations, but they are just tokenism.
tokenism.
So we can do a lot with wind, we can do a lot with water, we can do a lot with the sun. Those are low-hanging fruits. You go to the Ivasha and see geothermal. God is just giving you things from the ground. You just see energy coming from the ground. Sometimes I feel that this country, even if God released petrol, refined petrol and diesel in its final form, we just find one day it is coming like a river from
just to be set
some mountain. Really petrol. Hakuna kusafisha.
No
petrol.
Refineries.
No refinery. Really diesel. And somewhere another part of the natural gas ready for cooking.
LPG.
We will still be poor. And the petrol will still be expensive. This country.
But then again, from where you sit as a senior citizen and also a public scholar, The government has squarely put the blame on the high cost of electricity at the doorstep of depreciation of the Kenyan shilling, and also the high cost of oil from where they're sourcing, or from the Gulf states and all that. Do you feel that that's enough justification for why we are seeing
That is
high
actually
cost of
stupid,
electricity?
because you are bringing in
Oil.
the exchange rate because of oil. And we are saying we don't want to use oil.
Absolutely.
How can you be manufacturing electricity using oil? We don't want that. We have enough. God has given us enough. Why do we want to waste our money and our resources buying oil, then turning it into electricity? And we have solar, we have water, we have everything.
Wind energy.
Yeah. Why would we burden Kenyans with the forex on electricity?
But to look into such austerity measures that you bring in on board and recommending, that was to be the mandate of the task force that was formed by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, to look at how better Kenya can negotiate with independent power producers. This time around we're still having the subject. That's why the motion has been sponsored in Parliament. Do you feel that even these task forces, the House committees, the energy committees in both houses, Senate and National Assembly, do you feel for them it's always more of a chase after the winds?
We have been told House committees have been tempted with bribes. We have been told they have taken. It's on record. We have been told by people, even the most recent, Isaac Hassan of
IEBC.
Has indeed said MPs who are wanting millions from him so that they can save him from audit queries.
The referee for an ugly game.
So even this
House committees on energy.
Yeah, if it were to appear to threaten the independent power producers, let me not say anything.
So are you trying to signal that for Madam Jane Kagiri, the sponsor of this motion, to look at IPPs, it's more of a chase after the winds, or what?
It's nothing. It can't go anywhere.
There's a different administration, a different president.
Which one? If you wanted to lower the price of electricity, the cost of electricity, you don't need motions in Parliament. You don't need
tribunals
or
task force.
You just lower the cost of electricity one morning. Look, by stopping raw theft in the energy sector, just stopping it, the price of everything goes down. You get what I'm saying?
I get.
By looking at those contracts, hakuna kupembeleza mtu, hakuna kuongea na mtu, kuangalia to those contracts. Give them to me. I'm not a lawyer, give them to me. I've never seen one of them, but give them to me. I'll just point at one or two things and I tell you, take a walk. By dealing with procurement in Kenya Power, of meters, of transformers, these token things,
cables and all that.
Cables, posts.
Cement posts.
One morning, a steamer inateremka by 80%.
No blackouts all over the country?
Hakuna blackout.
A small...
Those contractors, sometimes power is deliberately off so that contractors can go there and make money. These are stupid things. If the president wanted to lower the price of electricity, he will do it in one afternoon.
But probably this was one of the fronts that they wanted to really commit to during the time when he was the DP. But he said his hands were tied because the government of then wasn't serious about the energy thing.
Are they still tied?
His hands are not tied, but look at his...
I can give him scissors, akate hiyo kamba.
But look at his docket composition. We now have even Madam Rebecca Miano, former MD of Kengen. He's seated there. He can advise her, him better. We also have...
Nobody wants to change anything. Yeah. Let's start there. The problems that face this country are so straightforward, are so simple to sort out, that if the president wanted to end the suffering of Kenyans, it will just be one morning, and by afternoon, everything is changed.
Abolish house.
If he doesn't know how, let him invite me. But you see, sometimes, Richard, sometimes you may be thinking people are playing games or they are greedy or they are corrupt when it is a question of ability. I listened to somebody speak on TV about economic matters. I even asked the station to invite me to rebut what that man had been saying.
Come on.
Point by point of everything that he said. I listened to a man said, one of the challenges the country was facing after elections, which we still face now, was liquidity issues. And one of the explanations he gave was that the government had intended to get $1 billion through floating of all these things, bill, bonds, and whatever.
Bonds, treasury bonds and all that.
But because of the certain challenges, not least about them, the uncertainties because the elections were around the corner, they did not do it. They did not get the money, about 120 billion. So that contributes, among other things. So I listened and said, oh, so we are suffering because the government wanted 120 billion and it didn't get because they couldn't raise money from the bond market. Oh. Well, aha, that is an economist for you. I call them houseboys. They are not economists. So you must go into a lot of things and create deficits the way they were taught in school by the World Bank economists. They are houseboys.
But these sitting
I would do differently. My friend, I would look at the damned budget and remove something that you would have used with 100 billion.
with your Council of Economic
I'll
Advisors.
remove it. But a trained economist will not think that way. He will create the deficit, a hole, a big hole. I will not create a hole. I will simply look at what we are doing today and plug something, remove it and throw it away.
You won't need a
That
Council of
thinking is not from a trained economist. And that's how great people work. You get it?
You can't say that.
And they said they worked 18 hours per day for I don't know how many weeks.
Yeah.
Trying to do what?
Banning the midnight oil.
To remove something from the budget. I cannot do. If I stay more than 2 hours, I'm not the one doing it. I'm supposed to have a global picture.
Perspective.
A big, broader perspective. I cannot do what clerks are doing, technical stuff, trying to follow line. You will never get anything. You look at it from up. And by the time the ministers are meeting, ministers or permanent secretaries, and their directors of budget and what?
Panoramic view.
Yeah, as my friend Maloba would say. At that point, mine will just to tell them, you'll strike out that, and the reason is this and this, that area, we don't need that, that one, you don't need that.
Tax and
but you are looking with them, you know, they will justify everything. You see how economists work?
I get it.
The same person says, we try to reduce the government expenditure. And look at something micro, trips. We say instead of huge delegations, let's have 3 people. Nobody else is going. When we land there are 30 people. When we ask,
COP26 summit.
some of them came with NGO money,
Yeah.
but then they end up spending government money. You see, his thinking is weak. My thinking is different. What is my thinking? There will be no trip.
We do it digital.
There will be no trip. This country is dying. People are dying. There will be no trip. So don't say there will be a trip and I want to trim.
The
There will be no
delegation.
trip.
And that's
Governments have told us they are stopping expenditure by removing big vehicles, fuel guzzlers.
it. And
After 3 months, you see they are all over. When you ask them, say, no, these ones we were given by donors.
office for the spouse of this and that.
But if I didn't have this big vehicle, if I didn't want the big vehicles, even if you give me one, keep it, don't give me. Or fuel it yourself and pay the driver. You see the thinking of an economist. It can't work. You can't get out of this hole with the thinking of an economist. You think like Singapore, being guided by pragmatism. You must be pragmatic in times like this. Don't go to the textbook and see what you are taught by your professor of economics.
Not just about having a Council of Economic Advisors.
No! You need intelligent people who can think on their feet. Who look at things that are pragmatic. Not going to the textbook and remembering what the professor taught him. You can't solve the problem. Those 2 examples can tell you even in the energy sector. Nobody can solve that problem until somebody comes from outside, thinks outside the box. There should be no box. You kick the box away and begin to think.
And send house committees on energy at home.
Which committees? There's no committee. I just look at those contracts. I just call you one by one. Run, please take a walk. Otherwise, nitachokora hii kitu, you will pay this country billions of shillings. Just take a walk and go.
Before your measurements are taken for the
Yes,
Taylor.
yes, for Taylor, for committee. Watu watatoroka.
There you have it from Herman Manyora, renowned firebrand public scholar, talking matters energy reforms in this country and how best the members of parliament can argue it out so that we address the high cost of electricity in this country, and also so that every Kenyan can literally have some wiggle room to enjoy some sort of luxury, even for those who do not afford electricity, that also can become a reality for them today, if not yesterday. Time for fun of the week. Today it is Wendy Wangare in Ngoingwa.
Ngoingwa, where is that?
Near Thika.
Wendy Wangare, thank you very much. Theka.
Theka. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
Wendy Wangare, thank
for
you so
being
much
part of us.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
We also invite you over to be a fan of the week by going straight to our Twitter handle. I'm at Monja Richard on Twitter, at H Manyora on Twitter as well. Tag the particular edition of the show that you've watched. Slide into my DM, send your location and your full name, and definitely we'll give you the credits due as our biggest support system on this channel, that is Herman Manyora, and on this show, that is Business Glide. Until next time, God bless you. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African proverb of the day.